Welcome to Between State Lines.
Welcome back to Between State Lines, episode 55. And Steph and guys, Steph, I don't know how up to date you are on any of the news that's going on. Nothing at
I
all.
know nothing. Like,
Okay.
basically nothing. I know Damian Lillard, it might be coming back to the Blazers. Or
Oh,
he is coming
well,
back to the Blazers. That's pretty exciting news in my world. That's all anybody could talk about yesterday. So, what else is going on? I'm kind of scared.
so there may or may not be light at the end of the tunnel for us in America.
Tell
So
me
this
more.
past week, Donald Trump was photographed with severely swollen ankles, aka cankles,
Well, when you
as
eat as
well.
much McDonald's as that man does, that sounds expected.
So he had he had the cankles, and then he had some bruising on the back of his hand, which they tried to cover up with makeup, and it was pretty clear, even with his orange skin, that it was makeup. Um, and so the White House came out and they had to respond to it, obviously, and they said that he has chronic venous insufficiency, which caused the ankles to swell up. It's like your blood can't pump back to your heart because you've been standing too long or you're old or whatever it might be. Your veins are essentially failing. And the bruising was due to him shaking a lot of hands. Now, doctors on social media who are licensed doctors and nurses are clocking this as chronic heart failure and not this other thing that they're trying to push it off as, because he's his diet is really poor and it would explain all these things, and he probably is retaining a lot of water, causing the ankles to swell up. And yeah, so is there light? Is it coming? Maybe.
Yeah, probably not as quick as we think, but for somebody who's been calling out somebody else aging rapidly in front of us and then saying like, "Oh, they've been planning it all along," and now they're making up stories. Like, they didn't just try to say that he had like 4% body fat, but they're not worried at all.
They're in
Not
they
worried
they
about
said.
cankles at all.
Well, the funniest part was somebody on, I think, Twitter. I refuse to call it X. Twitter. They they put a side by side of Joe Biden's like skinny ass ankles and Trump's cankles, and you know that he saw that because it went viral, and you know that made him so fucking angry
You know.
because a man with prostate cancer is still healthier than you, who has a piss poor diet at relatively the same age.
Yeah, you can't just like make things be reality just because you say it. I think that maybe they're finally learning that, or maybe they'll like that side of, I guess, because I just feel like everybody who's with him, like they're still like so gun ho with him. That's so crazy to me. But like anybody on that side, like they're just gonna stay there. It's so wild to me.
Well, you mentioned how his health is deteriorating. So he had this going on, but he also has claimed that he has a very intelligent and like um always scoring high on the cognitive tests he does. But if we've noticed this year, he's like said some really weird things. And so this past week, he was at a conference for AI, And he said that his uncle, who taught at MIT, taught the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski, and that the Unabomber was very bright and a great student, always correcting his fellow students. The problem is Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, never attended MIT, and Trump's uncle died in 1985, which was 11 years before the Unabomber was identified and arrested. So,
Wasn't he just talking about like movie plots for a little while? Like that none of this should really surprise us at this point, right? Am I right?
but according to his cult, he is a very smart and very sane person.
It does not matter what you say, they will always feel that way. Because when he was out on the White House front lawn, which sounds so Jerry Springer 1990s, and he was like telling off Israel, they were like, he knew exactly what to do in this. That's exactly why he's the president. And I'm like, I don't understand how you heard this news out there right now and you're like, this is exactly what we need. Yes. How? I don't get it. But I'm just gonna have to accept
The other
that.
day, I was avoiding working, and I was just doom scrolling on TikTok,
As we do.
and as we do, and I saw a video of Trump talking, as we do a lot, and I just like stopped to think for a second, and like, you know how when you're driving a car, it like comes to second nature. You're driving fine, you're not really aware that you're driving, but you're doing the thing, and then you stop and you think about driving a car, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm going 80 miles an hour. I'm driving this like projectile. So you're aware of it all of a sudden. That's how I felt. I sat there watching the video. I was like, Donald Trump is our president. Like, we live in a reality where Donald Trump was elected to the office of the presidency twice.
Twice. I know. It's strange.
It's
How
it's
did we
so
end
weird.
up here?
I think it has to do with the quadriskit. I
Yeah, it
think
has
you were
to be.
onto it.
The world needs it right now. The quadrisk. Somebody save us.
Someone
Please.
please. I think at this point, honestly, we need to skip the quadriskit because it's been too long. We just need to go for the is it penta this trisket? Penta is 5, right? Am I an idiot? Penta. Yeah.
Are you an idiot? You might be for skipping the quadrisk.
It's been too long. We
Just
just
do
gotta move past
both.
it.
Why not both?
The
Is that-
pentaskit.
I don't speak Spanish. Porque no los dos? I don't know.
Donde está la biblioteca?
Why not both?
Please, makers of the Trisket, just make us, just the two of us, a box of the Quadriskits and the Pentaskits. Don't sell them, just make them for us, and that's it. We'll call it good.
We just eat mystery food that's sent in the mail to us. Make it for Holden.
Make it, if it comes from the company, okay? I'm okay with eating it. A random person, God, no. I don't want to eat any of your people's stuff, like poison.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't no random quadriskits in the mail.
No, no. The other Trump thing that happened this week. So not only were we gaslit last week into thinking that the Epstein list was never real, it was made up. This week it was that Joe Biden and Barack Obama wrote the list, made it up, and it's fake. But amongst the evidence that was compiled when the government back in the early 2000s did their investigation of Jeffrey Epstein, they found a letter from Trump to Jeffrey, and it was leaked this week by the Wall Street Journal. And the letter, which contains an outline of a hand-drawn naked woman with typewritten text, says, I read it just like it is. It's kind of written as if like Trump and Jeffrey are having this like conversation, but it's all written by Trump. And it starts with the narrator says, "There must be more to life than having everything." Donald, yes, there is, but I won't tell you what it is. Jeffrey, nor will I, since I also know what it is. Donald, we have certain things in common, Jeffrey. Jeffrey, yes, we do, come to think of it. Donald, enigmas never age. Have you noticed that? Jeffrey, as a matter of fact, it was clear to me the last time I saw you. Donald, a pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret.
But it doesn't exist.
It
None
doesn't.
of this exists.
Trump's already come out and said it's fake and it's not him. He's never ever drawn a picture, even though there have been several dozens or whatever documented cases of Trump drawing pictures, albeit not really well, but he's as pictures drawn in letters to people. So, yeah.
His signature move. Deny.
But in response, he launched a lawsuit today against the Wall Street Journal. And I think the owner of it, Rupert Murdoch, which was the owner of Fox News as well, for $10 billion. So, yeah, that is what happened.
Wow. It's been a week.
It's been a week. But I think, and I'm not going to say I hope it happens. I'm not going to put that on our podcast. But if it happens and Trump does end up going in this administration, I think MAGA falls apart. Because number one, cults don't have a good track record of transferring power very well. And two, no one is afraid of JD Vance on the GOP side like they are with Trump. So
I just don't get what he has on them.
I don't get it. I just, the way they roll over and continue to roll over, I don't get it. It's wild.
Yeah. What the hell?
What dirt does he have on them? But enough with Trump. Fuck you, Trump. Short beef corner again. Fuck you, TikTok. Fuck you, the entire Trump administration. Fuck you, people who do not know how a roundabout works. If you stop in a roundabout, either in it or at the start of it, I hate you. And number 4, fuck you, Subway. You're gross. No one should eat you. Get out of here.
Fuck you, Subway. And TikTok.
And TikTok. Fuck both. Fuck them both.
TikTok just has not been as good as Reels. The Instagram one.
Oh, I have not. I didn't tell you. Oh, you might have seen my video. So I made a video this week. There have been a lot of AI videos that are like clearly AI that have gone out, and most of like the stuff is it's just like meme shit and not like a big deal. But there have been some stuff like there was a video somebody made AI of Greg Abbott in Texas saying that he supported ICE arresting people who crossed the border to help Texans during the floods. Uh, it's been proven to be AI. It's AI. It's not real. But that video had like 7 million views, a million likes, and I mean, everyone in the comments was saying how awful Abbott is, which is true, but not for this reason. So I made a stitch saying it's troubling. This was a video that was going viral, and then it got taken down by TikTok, and I got a strike on my account. And then I appealed that, and like 2 hours later, they put it back up. And the next morning, it was taken down again. The strike added back to my account.
Wait, so what happened after the strike got added back on?
Oh, the video is still down. I got the strike, video down, and it says I can't appeal it. It says unappealed, unappealable.
Oh, that's
So
wow. Wow. You win the appeal and somehow you lost forever.
I think since AI is used to like view these videos and stuff, I think I pissed AI off, and they're like, "This motherfucker is talking shit about us." Like
That's
he's
it.
going down.
That sucks.
Yeah. So thankfully, I'm not on the verge of being banned just yet, but give it
cares?
time. Who cares?
Yeah, TikTok's not the same anymore.
It's not. It's not. Our Instagram blend has gotten better, so
Yes.
it's gotten less weird.
Yeah,
hopefully
less
for you.
about buttholes.
Speaking of buttholes, my mom texted me today, and she said that she got someone rang her doorbell, and they had like a Ring camera. And when she went to look to see who it was, nobody was there. And then a few minutes later, she opened the door like carefully, like she's scared of it being someone coming to murder her. And someone left like 5 individual flowers on her doorstep. I can send you the picture. It's really weird.
Clayton?
Clayton?
Is that you?
I just sent you the video, the picture. But yeah, quite weird. And then she said, "Is someone casing my house?" And I was like, I don't think so, Mom. Like your house is not really like if they go in your house, Mom, they're gonna be more scared of the house than you are of them because your house is a hoarder's wet dream.
I mean, what? I can't wait to see these. It's just like a little bunch of flowers.
Yep. Just
that is
the weirdest
strange.
thing. Yeah. And I said, it's probably a kid. And she said, no, we don't have any kids in the neighborhood. I was like, okay, well, maybe it's Clayton.
Maybe it's Clayton.
Yeah.
I would have seen this and been like, they're so nice.
My mom's like, are they going to murder me?
I know.
Is this a death sentence?
Honestly, that's probably the proper way to handle this situation. Just like, oh, that's so nice. I just threw away a rose today from somebody who brought it to me at work like a week ago.
Oh, wow. A single rose or like roses, plural?
A single rose.
A single rose.
Yeah, there's this woman that goes around bar to bar that sells like bouquets of flowers, and she'll have like single roses, or you can get a couple of them. So I imagine it was a couple of girls, and I think that they bought themselves roses and then they wanted to gift one of them. So I got
That
lucky.
was very nice of them. And now it's
Yeah.
dead.
Yep. Now it's dead.
Now it's dead.
Now it's in the trash. It lasted a week.
No. It's impressive. And your house with the track record you have with plants. That's impressive.
Hey, everything's going strong, actually. There have been a couple of casualties recently, but in my defense, they didn't have roots. I didn't know. No,
They didn't have roots.
They didn't have roots. It just kind of keeled over. It was like, oh, well, that explains things. Didn't have roots.
We have
Actually, I have one of them here right now. But it looks healthy enough that it might get roots. So we're going to try. I put it in the window or under a light, and we'll see what happens.
We have obviously the garden in the back, and we have a squash plant. And there have been these bugs. They look like stink bugs, but they're actually like, I don't know the official name, but they're like squash bugs. They eat squash.
Rude.
And they have like a billion babies, and they lay eggs on the underside of the plant's leaves, and they look like little like pepper kernels when they're unhatched, and we need to get rid of them. By ladybugs will eat these bugs for you, but my track record with ladybugs is pretty poor, so they don't like me. But so there's like probably close to 1,000 eggs on this plant, and they hatched, or some of them did this past week, and there are little like tiny albino stink bugs all over the plant, just like consuming the fuck out of it. I'm like,
wow, that sounds awful.
dope.
Do something.
It's awful.
Do
I need to get some
something now.
ladybugs.
Yeah. They need to be there now.
I think we got like 3 total squash out of the plant this year before they arrived on the scene. So I got some.
Release
Are you drinking
the
a Capri Sun?
ladybugs. Yeah.
I haven't had a Capri Sun in so long. I love Capri Suns. Although I drink, if I drink soda or like energy drinks, it's always like the zero sugar drinks, and I haven't had a full sugar drink like that in a while. And I had a full sugared, not a Monster, but it was a drink called Full Throttle. Because it was free at the gas station, and it just tasted like absolute ass. I don't know if it's like the drink or like the sugar.
Well, that's what free
I'm not
tastes
used to.
like.
That's what free tastes like shit.
Yeah, that's it. That's what free tends to taste like. But sometimes you enjoy it because it was free. It's Full Throttle. I feel like I can picture that in my head. I've never had that before though. But we do have a lot of zero sugar stuff around here. This is 100% juice.
That's the zero sugar stuff tastes really good. I don't know. Maybe it's just me being old, but I feel like it tastes really good.
No, I think that when you had an almond mom in the 90s, they had a lot of like fat-free, zero sugar stuff. And so when it has that like sugar substitute, I don't know, it's like this weird nostalgic feeling. So yeah, I like the zero sugar. It reminds me of my childhood.
And they've gotten better with whatever chemicals they use. Or obviously we're making RFK Jr. so angry, but whatever chemicals they use tastes really good. They've done a good job.
Yeah, I love those chemicals.
Capitalism. So from the beef corner, we're gonna go to the creepy corner. So here are some, and I looked at these facts this week, and this is the first time that any like list of facts has made me uneasy when
Oh,
reading it. So yeah, not all of these, but you'll see which ones.
okay.
So the first one is that the FBI estimates there are at least 500 truckers on the road right now with torture or murder chambers in their truck.
I absolutely believe that. Um, yeah, that's can't give too much away on why I believe that, but I believe that.
We still are owed an episode where you divulge the secrets of your travels amongst the road when you were hitchhiking.
Um, yeah, I don't know. There's not many secrets. I just didn't like to go to school, and so I would go up to people and be like, "Hey, you don't know me and I don't know you, but it looks like you're not going to school today. So I was wondering if I could go with you." And they'd be like, "You want us to kidnap you?" You'd be like, "Yeah, yeah, kind of like that. Um, it should be back by 5. But yeah, let's go. What are we doing?" And sometimes people would make it fun. Like one time, instead of going like that exact conversation actually led me to go to the coast, and I did not make it back by 5. It was about 5:30, and I remember my parents calling my phone and I just didn't answer. It was in a lot of trouble, but I just didn't say anything. They had no idea. It was a
You were
great
a
day though.
wild child. It was
Yeah, my
a
sister should
great.
be like, "What states did you hop to today?" Like, "Oh, you know."
God. That kind of reminds me of like when I was probably like 24 and I lived at home. No, 22. And I had just started driving and got my own car. And I went out one night and I would just kind of go hang out. I didn't want to go home. And I didn't answer the phone call from my mom. She called me like 6 times. And I was like, fuck this. I'm not answering this. And I recall when I got home the next day, she was so mad at me for not answering the phone. And she was like, well, if you were in a ditch, we wouldn't have known. I'm like, Mom, if I'm dead in a ditch, I not answering the phone call anyways. So what the
Yeah,
fuck does it matter?
how am I going to answer? But also, you didn't drive until you're 24?
I got my license when I was 20.
Okay. Okay.
I didn't have
I got
I
my
had my own
permit
car at that time.
when I was 15. Like as soon as I turned 15. I wasn't good at this stuff. I just kept going. Like I think it took me like 4 times to pass, but or whatever the maximum amount of times before they like tell you have to wait 6 months, but I was determined. All my friends that I grew up with, they had to wait till they were 15 and a half. And so I was like, I have to get my permit before they do because I'm really competitive.
See, I was too scared to drive. I mean, driving is obviously can be terrifying, but I was too scared to drive, so I didn't get my license until I was my permit until I was 20 and licensed that same year. So
Yeah. I remember going in for my driving test, and I think I also failed like the maximum amount of times before they tell you to you had to come back or something. But I think the last time I was really sick and I was staying home from school. My grandpa was like threw the driving learner's manual at me or whatever and was like, "Read this. You have 1 hour. We're going the DMV." I was like, "Okay." Like I got my license, but I was
I
out as often as possible. Like I told him I went to church like 3 times a week because
oh
that's
that's
all I was like allowed to do.
so I did fail my permit test the first time I took it. I got one of the signs wrong. But I just got one question wrong. And in the state I grew up in, you have to get all of the road signs right or you can't pass. So,
Oh,
yeah. So one and done. And I passed on the second try. But I remember when I moved to the current state I'm in right now, they don't just transfer your license. You have to take the test all over again, like the sign, the knowledge test. And I had like such PTSD from being embarrassed from failing the permit test that 15 years later, 12 years later, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna fail this. I don't know the signs anymore.
they just make the test so uninteresting. It's like, I feel like I should have known I had ADHD from how I couldn't pass any of those tests. Because, like, reading the questions, I'm like, what are they asking me?
I
If they
hate
would have given me like a snack or something, I would have made it through.
yeah, I hate those like problem solving questions. We had to like actually think about like a paragraph of fucking question and they're trying to trick you. I'm like, fuck you, man.
Yeah,
Go
they
suck a dick.
ask all sorts of weird questions. Like, I think something about a horse. I don't know. I haven't come across a lot of horses while I'm driving.
Uh, Dead bodies moan and grunt when you move them.
I hate that. I really, really could have lived my whole life without knowing that.
You're welcome. Now you know.
Thank you.
This next one will get you. There is nowhere in your house that you can store your toothbrush without it getting fecal matter on it.
Yeah, I hate that one. I think about that sometimes, actually.
And for all of you people who think that, oh, I'll put it in a case and it's fine. No, no, no. Because we open the case up, what gets in there? Poop.
It's everywhere. Forever and
Every
clean.
everybody poops. Um, a non-zero number of farmers go missing every year from pigs because they'll eat literally anything.
I believe that, and it's terrifying.
Don't be a pig farmer. Uh, if you have abdominal surgery, and this includes like a C-section, and the surgeon puts your intestines, or moves them to get whatever they need done, they don't put them back in exactly the way they were because your body will do that itself. However, the part that made me uneasy is that when they sew you back up and you're awake and you're recovering, you can feel your intestines naturally shifting and moving back into position.
Yeah, that's really strange. Yeah. I have an aunt who had some sort of heart surgery, and she talks about how she can like feel what's going on with her heart all the time, and that kind of weirds me out. I'm like, I can if I'm like paying super close attention, but yeah, thinking about feeling your organs shifting, that'd make me sick to my stomach. I'd get nauseous.
I like I feel so uneasy. Like if I ever stop and think about my collarbone, like just think about it being right there on my neck, it just bothers me so much that I have to like think about anything else other than my collarbone existing.
Really?
Yeah,
Why
it's
should
really weird.
collarbone bother you?
It's like close to your neck. It's like
Mm,
I feel like, and yeah, it's just it's I now I'm like okay.
yeah, I broke my collarbone once. Like,
Oh
ugh.
yeah, no, it like it. Okay, uh, moving on.
I'm not going to stop thinking about it.
Some people will use any hole in existence on their body in a sexual way, including a surgical hole in the stomach to collect poop in a bag. And some people will advertise themselves out for use with that hole. And we only know this because they get infected, obviously, and they eventually own up to doing this. And the behavior, the sexual act, is called, it's kind of funny, a Philly sidecar.
Wow. Yeah. I think I could have lived without knowing that one too.
Yeah, that was the one that made me so uneasy because, like, not that I have a colostomy, but I could just, like, ugh, it makes me so uneasy just thinking about
Yeah.
someone doing that.
Yeah. No. And how do you not think that that's going to lead to infection? Insanity.
It's just, ugh. Uh, this next one will probably keep you up tonight. Fatal familial insomnia is a disease that doesn't let you sleep. You start hallucinating until you die, and the disease is hereditary, and sleeping pills do not fix it. Um, and this disease is an example of a prion disease, which is when the misfolding of proteins in your body, which can just randomly happen with no cause, leads to rapid brain damage and death. And again, there's nothing you can do to stop it.
I think there was a movie about that.
I feel like there was a guy that had that happen to him recently.
Maybe. I know that there was. God, what is that actor's name? I feel like he played Batman.
Oh, Krishna Bale?
Yeah. Yeah. I think he did.
I think I know what you're talking about. I don't recall the name of it, but
It's like, I saw this movie. It was really good.
yeah,
He was in too many movies.
I know exactly what you're talking about, though. I do. Chemist?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. After an on-the-job accident, he begins to develop insomnia. So yeah, so that's the thing
feel
that
like
just
that was a great
randomly
movie.
happens.
That's really scary. There was a time in my life that I couldn't sleep. And we tried everything. Magnesium helped.
That's terrifying. That is terrifying. I'm pretty sure that there was a YouTuber, if I'm not remembering this incorrectly, that had this disease and he was like documenting it on his channel, and like all the way up until his death, he posted one last video and then he died. Where he was like slowly succumbing to like the insanity and the hallucinations and just like the awfulness of not being able to sleep.
Man. Yeah. I can't imagine living that life. Now I'm in my time of my life I would just want to sleep all the time.
Hey, I love sleep. My daughter takes after me, obviously, as far as like sleeping goes. And if you try to wake her up, she just rolls over and says, "No, I'm going to sleep." I'm like, "That's me, literally me." Couldn't be prouder.
I love that. My daughter's like that. My son is not. He's like 6 a.m. Just, hi. What are we doing?
Your son is going to be a morning person, I can tell, the rest of his life, which
His entire life.
I don't understand. I can't empathize with that. I can't like. I don't know how people do it. It's awful.
Yeah.
Waking up at 6 a.m.
He's been like a 5 a.m. kid his entire life. It didn't matter what time I put him to bed. If it was 9 p.m., if it was 6:30. So I put him in bed at 6:30 because I was like, if I'm going to be waking up at 5:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, then I'd rather have some hours to myself.
Jesus. Yeah. No, thank you. No,
Yeah,
thank
my
you.
daughter's like, I'm tired. Leave me alone. She's not a morning person, doesn't want to be awake, doesn't want you to look at her. And if it's too bright, she's like, leave me alone.
That's my speed. That's literally my speed. Like I God love your son, but I don't know how he does.
I don't either. It sucks.
The last fact, which will also get you, is that some people are born with a malformed mass of veins in their brain called an AVM, and they have no idea unless it's seen on a CT or MRI. And then one day, it can burst without warning, and that normal, healthy person can die, suffer brain damage, paralysis, and so on with absolutely no warning.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And it's just a mess.
Just a mass of veins. Unless they're like testing for it or know you might have it, then there's no way they know.
Damn. Yeah, I hate all of these. I
Like I
could have lived
said,
my whole life.
the first one that I had no that I could not get through without like feeling uneasy and uncomfortable. So, we are gonna finish our story from the last 2 weeks. So where we left off, they had just tried to map out their neighborhood, and they lost the map in the water. Someone stole our main protagonist's clothes, and the neighbor, I don't remember her name. She was essentially murdered because they took her out in multiple trash bags, from what the writer author said. So creepy shit's happening in this world, and this next part is called screens. I've intentionally withheld some details from a lot of my stories. I have let my hopes concerning the way that things might be influence my evaluation of the way they actually are. I don't think there's any point anymore. At the end of the summer between kindergarten and first grade, I caught the stomach flu. This has all the components of the regular flu. However, with this one, you end up thrown up in a bucket and not the toilet because you are sitting on it. The sickness gets purged from both ends. That was a pretty descriptive thing we didn't need to know. This lasted for 10 days. Holy fuck. 10 days? Oh my God.
Oh, that reminds me of that stomach flu that went around my college. And it was like, whatever virus it was, you don't want it. And it was like a stick figure on its hands and knees with stuff coming out the front and the back.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it made me laugh every time I saw it.
I think I sent you this Instagram. I might not have, but this comedian was telling a story about how when he was in like fourth grade, one day at school, one of his classmates shit his pants and got sent home. And then, like 2 hours later, the entire class got sent home. And he recalls his parents picking him up, and like a bunch of parents were crying and like picking their kids up. And he was like, "Man, like you guys also know about Brandon, like how he shit his pants, like that awful story, and like you feel so bad about it too." And then at the end of it, he's like, So Brandon has a very different memory from 9/11. Everyone was crying.
I don't think you sent that to me.
I did not. I'll send it to you after this. Yeah, I laughed so hard. I was like, oh man. Yeah. So 10 days though. That's fucking
Long time.
awful. Let's see. That said, but just before it passed, the sickness was granted an extension in the form of pink eye. My eyelids were so fused together by the dried mucus during the night that the first day I woke with the infection, I thought I had gone blind. When I started first grade, I had a kink in my neck from 10 days of bed rest and 2 swollen, bloodshot eyes. Josh was in another group and didn't have my lunch, so in a cafeteria bursting with 200 kids, I still had a table all to myself. I started keeping spare food in my backpack that I would take into the bathroom to eat after lunch, since my school meals were usually confiscated by older kids who knew I wouldn't stand up to them, since no one would stand up with me. The dynamic persisted even after my condition cleared up, since no one wanted to be friends with a kid who gets bullied, lest they have some kind of aggression directed towards them. The only reason this stopped was due to the fact that a kid named Alex stood up for me. Alex was in the 3rd grade and was bigger than most of the kids in my grade. Around the 3rd week of school, he sat with me at lunch. And this put an immediate end to the shortage of my food supply. He was nice enough, but he seemed kind of slow. He never really talked at length except for when I finally decided to ask why he had been sitting with me. He had a crush on Josh's sister, Veronica. Veronica was in 4th grade and was probably the prettiest girl in the school. Even as a 6-year-old who fully endorsed the notion that girls were disgusting, I still knew how pretty Veronica was. When she was in 3rd grade, Josh told me 2 boys had gotten into a physical fight, which erupted out of an argument concerning the significance of the messages she had written in one of their yearbooks. One of the boys eventually hit the other in the forehead with the corner of the yearbook, and the wound required stitches to close. While not one of those 2 boys, Alex wanted her to like him and confessed that he knew Josh and I were best friends. I gathered that he hoped that I would convey his ostensibly philanthropic deed to Veronica, and that she would presumably be so moved by his selflessness, that she'd take interest in him. If I told her, he would continue to sit with me as long as I needed him to. Because this was during the time when Josh mostly stayed at my house, building the raft and navigating the tributary with me, I didn't have the chance to bring up Veronica because I simply didn't see her. I told Josh about it and he made fun of Alex, but said that he would tell his sister since I wanted him to. I doubted he would, and Josh was annoyed that people seemed to be so taken with his sister. I recall him calling her an ugly cow. I never said anything to Josh, but I remember wanting to say, even then, that she was pretty and would one day be beautiful. And I was right. When I was 15, I was seeing a movie at a place with my friends, and I had come to call the Dirt Theater. It was probably nice at some point, but time and neglect had weathered the place so severely. This theater had movable tables and chairs on a level floor, so when the theater was full, there were still a few places you could sit and see the whole screen. The theater was still open, I imagine, for 3 reasons. 1, it was cheap to see a movie there, and 2, they showed a different cult movie twice a month at midnight, and 3, they sold beer to underage kids during the midnight showings. I went for the first 2, and that night they were showing Scanners by David Cronenberg for $1. My friends and I were sitting in the very back. I wanted to sit close to the front for a better view, but Ryan had driven us, so I relented. A few minutes before the movie started, a group of girls walked in. They were all pretty attractive, but whatever beauty they might have had been eclipsed by the girl with the dirty blonde hair, even though I'd only caught a glimpse of her profile. As she turned to move her seat, I caught full view of her face, which gave me the feeling of butterflies in my stomach. It was Veronica. I hadn't seen her in such a long time. Josh and I saw progressively less of one another after we snuck out to my old house that night when we were 10, and usually when I'd visit him, she'd be out with friends. While everyone stared at the screen, I stared at Veronica, only looking away when the feeling that I was being a creep overcame me. But that feeling would quickly subside, and my eyes would return to her. She was really beautiful, just like I had thought she'd be when I was a kid. When the credits started to roll, my friends got up and left. There was only one exit, and they didn't want to be trapped waiting for the crowd to clear. I lingered in hopes of catching Veronica's attention. As she and her friends walked by, I took a chance. "Hey, Veronica." She turned toward me, looking a little startled. "Yeah?" I got on my seat and stepped a little into the light coming into the open door. "It's me, Josh's old friend from way back. How have you been?" "Oh my God, hey, it's been so long." She motioned to her friend. She motioned. She motioned to her friends that
It's
she'd
like
be
a
out in a
bad
second.
Mickey Mouse.
It is so hot in this house. I got the AC fixed this week, and it's still so hot. I think it's like 80 degrees in this room. I am
Damn.
cooking alive.
66 in here.
Fuck you,
I got my blankie on.
you son of a bitch.
Living my best life.
Uh, yeah, a few years at least. Not since the last time I was over with Josh. How is he anyway? "Oh, that's right. I remember all you guys' games. Do you still play Ninja Turtles with your friends?" She laughed a little, and I blushed. "No, I'm not a kid anymore. Me and my friends play X-Men now." I was really hoping she'd laugh. "Ha ha ha, you're cute. Do you come to see these movies every time?" I was still reeling from what she said. Does she really think I'm cute? Did she just mean I was funny? Does she think I'm attractive? I suddenly realized that she had asked me a question, and my mind grasped for what it was. Yeah, I said too loudly. "Yeah, I try to anyway. What about you?" "Oh, I come every now and then. My boyfriend doesn't like these movies, but we just broke up, so I plan on coming from now on." I was trying to be casual, but failed. "Oh, well, that's cool. Not that you guys broke up. I mean, I just thought you'd be able to come more often." She laughed again. I tried to recover. "So, are you coming the week after next? They're supposed to show Day of the Dead. It's really cool." "Yeah, I'll be here." She smiled. And I was about to suggest that maybe we could sit together when she quickly closed the space between us and hugged me. "It was really good to see you," she said with her arms around me. I was trying to think of what to say next when I realized the biggest problem is I had forgotten how to talk. Luckily, Ryan, who I could hear approaching from the hallway, came in and spoke for me. "Dude, you know the movie's over, right? Let's get the fuck out." "Oh, yeah." Veronica let go and said she'd see me next time. She was playing. She was played out of the room by the poor music Ryan was making with his mouth. I was furious, but it dissipated as soon as I heard Veronica laughing in the lobby. Day of the Dead couldn't come soon enough. Ryan's family was going out of town, so he wouldn't be able to drive us, and the other friends I was with that night didn't have cars. A few days before the movie, I asked Mom if she could take me. She responded almost immediately by denying my request, but I persisted, and she picked up the desperation in my voice. She asked why I wanted to go so badly since I had seen the movie before, and I hesitated before saying I was hoping to see a girl there. She smiled and asked playfully if she knew the girl, and I reluctantly told her it was Veronica. The smile disappeared from her face, and she coldly said, "No." Oh shit, the mom does not like Veronica. Oh Lord. What did Veronica do? I decided that I could call Veronica to see if she could pick me up. I had no idea if she still lived at home, but it was worth a try. But then I realized that Josh might answer. I hadn't talked to him in almost 3 years, and if he answered, I obviously couldn't ask to talk to his sister. I felt guilty for calling to speak with Veronica, not Josh, but I dismissed that feeling quickly. Josh hadn't called me in years either. I picked the phone up and dialed the number that was so embedded in my muscle memory from having dialed it so often all those years ago. It rang several times before someone picked up, but it wasn't Josh. I felt a mixture of both relief and disappointment. I realized in that second that I really missed Josh. I will call this weekend after and talk to him, but this was my only chance to see if Veronica could or would take me, so I had to ask for her. The person told me I dialed the wrong number. I repeated the number back to her, and she confirmed. She said they must have changed their number, and I agreed. I apologized for the disturbance and hung up. I was suddenly intensely sad because now I couldn't contact Josh, even if I wanted to. I felt terribly for having been afraid that he might answer the phone. He had been my best friend, and I realized that the only way I could be put back in touch with him would be through Veronica. So now, not that I needed one, I had another reason to see her. I told Mom the day before the movie that I was no longer concerned with going, but was hoping she could take me to my friend Chris's house. She relented and dropped me off that Saturday a few hours before the movie. My plan was to walk from his house to the theater since he lived only a half-mile away. They went to church early on Sundays, so his parents would go to sleep Saturday night. Chris was fine with not coming with me since he had planned on chatting with his girl that he met online. He said that the walk back to his house would be even lonelier after she laughed in my face when I tried to kiss her, and I told him not to electrocute himself when he tried to have sex with his computer. I left his house at 11:15. I tried to pace myself so I'd get there just before the movie started. I was going by myself, and so I didn't want to hang around there waiting. On the way to the theater, I figured that if Veronica showed up at all, I would be too lucky for us to arrive at the same time, so I debated whether I should wait outside or just go in. Both had their pros and cons. As I was grappling with these concerns, I noticed that the steady stream of streaking car lights had been replaced by a single, constant spotlight that refused to pass. The road wasn't illuminated by streetlights, so I was walking in the grass with the road about 2 feet to my left. I stepped a little more to my right and craned my neck over my shoulder to see what was behind me. A car had stopped about 10 feet behind me. All I could see were the violently bright lights that were cutting through the otherwise Stygian surroundings. I thought that it might be one of Chris's parents. Maybe they had come to check in on us and then seen I was gone. It wouldn't have taken much pressing for Chris to confess. I took one step toward the car, and it broke its pause and started driving toward me at a slow pace. It passed me, and I saw that it wasn't Chris's parents' car, or any car that I had recognized for that matter. I tried to see the driver, but it was too dark, and my pupils had shrunk when faced with the blinding lights from the car just moments before. They adjusted enough so I could see a tremendous crack in the back window of the car as I drove away. I didn't think much of the whole affair. Some people find it fun to scare their people. I'd often hide around corners and jump out at my mom after all. I timed it right and got there about 10 minutes before the movie started. I had decided to wait outside until around 11:57, since that would give me the time to find her inside if she's already seated. As I was considering the possibility that she might not show, I saw her. She was alone, and she was beautiful. I waved to her and walked to close the distance. She smiled and asked if my friends were already inside. I said they weren't and realized this must seem like I was trying to make this date. She didn't seem bothered by that, nor was she bothered when I handed her the ticket I had already bought. She looked at me quizzically and said, "Don't worry, I'm rich." She laughed, and we went inside. Oh, wait, he said that. Why'd I do that voice? Damn it. God damn it. "Don't worry, I'm rich." She laughed and went inside. I bought us
Great.
one popcorn and 2 drinks and spent most of the movie debating whether or not I should reach my hand into a popcorn bag when she reached in so they would touch. She seemed to enjoy the movie, and before I knew it, it was over. We didn't linger in the theater, and because this was midnight, we couldn't loiter in the lobby, so we walked outside. The parking lot of the theater was big because it connected with a mall that had gone out of business. Not wanting the night to be over just yet, I continued the conversation while casually walking around the old mall. As we were about to round the corner and leave the theater out of sight, I looked back and saw that her car was the only one left in the parking lot. The other one had a large crack in the back window. My immediate uneasiness turned to understanding. That makes a lot of sense. The driver of that car works here and must have figured I was on my way to the movie. Injecting real horror into the life of a horror fan seemed like an obvious move. We walked around the mall and talked about the movie. I told her I had thought Day of the Dead was better than Dawn of the Dead, but she refused to agree. I told her when I called her old number and about my dilemma about who would answer the phone. She didn't find it as funny as I now did, but she took my phone and put her number in it. She commented that it might be the worst cell phone she'd ever seen. Her evaluation wasn't rescinded when I told her I couldn't even receive pictures on it. I called her so she'd have my number, and she programmed it in. She told me that she was graduating, but she hadn't done well in school so far that year, so she wasn't sure if she'd get into college. I told her to attach a picture of herself to the application, and they'd pay for her to go there just so they could look at her. Creepy.
Yeah.
She didn't laugh at that one, and I thought she might be offended. She might have thought I was implying that she couldn't get in based on her intelligence. I nervously glanced at her, and she was just smiling, and even in this poor light, I could see that she was blushing. I wanted to hold her hand, but I didn't. As we walked down the side of the mall back toward the theater, I asked her about Josh. She told me that she didn't want to talk about it. I asked her if he was at least doing all right, and she said, I don't know. I don't know. I figured Josh must have... I figured Josh must have taken a wrong turn somewhere and started to get into trouble. I felt bad, and I felt guilty. As we approached the parking lot, I noticed the car with the cracked window was gone and that her car was now the only one in the parking lot. She asked if I needed a ride, and even though I really didn't, I said I'd appreciate it. I had drunk my whole soda during the movie, and all the walking was putting pressure on my bladder. I knew I couldn't wait to get back to Chris's, but I had decided that I was going to try to kiss her when she dropped me off, and didn't want this biological nagging to rush me out of the car. This would be my first kiss. I could think of no ruse to conceal what I needed to do. The theater had long closed, so I had one option. I told her I was going to go behind the theater to piss, but I'd be back in 2 shakes. It was obvious that I thought it was hilarious, and she seemed to laugh more at how funny I found it than how funny it clearly was. On the way to the theater, I stopped and turned toward her. I asked if Josh had ever told her that kid named Alex had done something nice for me. She paused to think for a moment and said that he had, and she inquired as to why I asked, but I said it was nothing. Josh really was a good friend. I realized there was a chain link fence extending off and running parallel to the walls of the building. Where I stood, she could still see me, and the fence seemed to stretch on endlessly. So I thought I'd just hop it, duck out of sight, and return as quickly as I could. It may have been too much of an effort, but I thought I was being polite. I climbed the fence and walked just a little ways until I was out of sight and urinated. For a moment, the only sounds were the crickets in the grass behind me and the collision of liquid and cement. These sounds were overpowered by a noise I can still hear when it is quiet, and there are no other noises around to distract my ears. In the distance, I heard a faint screeching, which quickly subsided, only to be replaced with a cascade of thundering vibrations. I realized quickly what it was. It was a car. The growling of the growling of the engine got louder, and then I thought, no, not louder, closer. As soon as I realized this, I started back toward the fence, but before I could get very far, I heard a brief, truncated scream, and the roar of the engine terminated in a deafening thud. I started running, but after only 2 or 3 more steps, I was tripped by a loose piece of stone and fell hard and fast onto the concrete. My head struck in the corner of a chair as I fell. I was dazed for maybe 30 seconds, but the renewed rumbling of the engine drew my senses back, and my equilibrium was restored by adrenaline. I redoubled my efforts. I was worried that whoever had crashed the car might harass Veronica. As I was climbing over the fence, I saw there was still only one car in the parking lot, and no evidence of a crash. I thought I might have misjudged its direction or proximity. As I ran towards Veronica's car, and as my orientation changed, I saw what the car had hit. My legs stopped working almost completely. It was Veronica. Her car was sitting between us, and as I closed the distance and walked around it, she came fully into view. Her body was twisted and crumpled like a discarded figure meant to represent a catalog of things a human body cannot do. I could see the bone of her right shin cutting through her jeans, and her left arm was wrapped so hard around the back of her neck that her hand fell on her right breast. Her head was craned back, and her mouth hung widely open toward the sky. There was so much blood. And as I looked at her, I actually found it hard to discern whether she was laying on her back or on her stomach. And this optical illusion made me feel sick. When you're confronted with something in the world that simply doesn't belong, your mind tries to convince itself that it is dreaming. And to that end, it provides you with that distinct sense of all things moving slowly as if through sap. In that moment, I honestly felt like I would wake up any minute. But I didn't wake up. I fumbled my phone and called for help, but had no signal. I could see Veronica's phone sticking out of what I thought was her right front pocket. I had no choice. Trembling, I reached for her phone, and as I slid it out, she moved and gasped for air so violently that it seemed that she was trying to breathe in the whole world. This startled me so much that I staggered back and fell onto the asphalt with her phone in my hand. She was trying to adjust her body to get it into its natural position, but with every spasm and jerk, I could hear the crackling and grinding of her bones. Without thinking, I scrambled over to her and put my face over hers and just said, "Veronica, don't move, okay? Just stay still. Don't move. Veronica, please just don't move." I kept saying it, but the words started to fall apart as tears came streaming down my face. I opened her phone. It still worked. It was still on the screen where she had saved my number. And when I saw it, I felt my heart break a little. I called 911 and waited with her, telling her it'd be okay, and feeling guilty for lying to her every time I said it. When the sounds of sirens tore through the air, she seemed to become more alert. She had remained conscious since I found her, but now more of the light was coming back into her eyes. Her brain was still protecting her from the pain, though it looked as if it was finally allowing her to become aware that something was terribly wrong with her. Her eyes rolled over to mine, and her lips moved. She was struggling, but I heard her. He took my picture. I didn't understand what she meant, so I said the only thing I could think of. "I'm so sorry, Veronica." I drove with her in the ambulance, where she finally lost consciousness. I waited in the room that they had reserved for her. I still had her phone, so I put it with her purse, and I called my mom from the hospital phone. It was about 4 a.m. I told her I was fine, but that Veronica was not. She cursed at me and said she'd be right there, but I told her I wasn't leaving until Veronica was out of surgery. She said she'd come anyway. My mom and I didn't speak that much. I told her I was sorry for lying, and she said that we'd talk about that later. I think that we had talked more in that room if I had just told her about boxes. Hold on. I think that we had. I think that had we talked more in that room, if I had just told her about boxes or the night with the raft, if she had just told me more of what she knew, I think that things would have changed. But we sat there in silence. She told me that she loved me and that I could call her whenever I wanted to come home. As Mom was leaving, Veronica's parents rushed in. Her dad and my mom exchanged a few words that appeared to be quite serious while Veronica's mother talked to the person at the desk. My mother was a nurse, but she didn't work at this hospital. I'm sure that she had tried to get Veronica transferred, but her condition was prohibitive. While we waited, the police came in and talked to each of us. I told them what happened. They made some notes and then left. She came out of surgery and 90% of her body was covered in a thick white cast. Her right arm was free, but the rest of her was bound like a cocoon. She was still under, but I remember how I felt when I had my cast before kindergarten. I asked the nurse for a marker, but I couldn't think of anything to write. I slept in a chair in the corner and went home the next day. I came back every afternoon for several days. At some point, they had moved another patient into her room and set up a screen around Veronica's bed to act as a partition. She didn't seem to be feeling better, but she made more moments of lucidity. But even during these periods, we wouldn't really talk. Her jaw had been broken by the car, so the doctors had wired it shut. I sat with her for a while, but there was nothing more I could say. I got up and walked over to her, kissed her on the forehead, and she whispered through her clenched teeth, "Josh." This surprised me, but I looked at her and said, "Has he not come to see you?" "No." I finally found myself really irritated. Even if Josh has been getting into trouble, he should still come to see his sister, I thought. I was about to express this when she said, "No, Josh, he ran away. I should have told you." I felt my blood turn to ice. When? When did this happen? When he was 13. Did he leave a note or something? On his pillow. She started crying and I followed her. But I think we were crying for different reasons, even if I didn't realize it. At this point, there were a lot of things I still didn't recall about my childhood, and there were a lot of connections I hadn't yet made. I told her I had to go, but she could text me anytime. I got a text from her the next day telling me not to come back. I asked why, and she said she didn't want me to see her like that again. I agreed begrudgingly, and then we'd text each other every day, though I kept this from my mom because I knew that she didn't like me talking to Veronica. Usually her texts were fairly short, and mostly only in response to more lengthy texts that I would send her. I tried to call her once. I was sure she was screening her calls, but hoped I could hear her voice. She picked up, but didn't say anything. I could hear how labored her breathing was. About a week after she told me not to come to see her anymore, she sent me a text that simply read, "I love you." I was filled with so many different emotions, but I responded by expressing the most prevalent one. I replied, "I love you too." She said that she wanted to be with me and that she couldn't wait until she could see me again. She told me that she had been released and was convalescing at her house. These exchanges carried on for several weeks, but every time I asked to come see her, she would say soon. I kept insisting, and the following week, she said that she had thought she might be able to make it to the next midnight movie. I couldn't believe it, but she insisted that she would try. I got a text from her in the afternoon of the movie saying, see you tonight. I got Ryan to drive me since Chris's parents had found out what happened and said I wasn't welcome at their house anymore. I explained to Ryan that she might be in bad shape, but that I really cared about her, so to give us some space. He accepted, and we headed down there. Veronica didn't show. I had saved a seat for her right next to me near the exit so she can get in and out easily, but 10 minutes into the movie, a man slid into the chair. I whispered, "This seat is taken," but he didn't respond at all. He just stared at the screen. I remember wanting to move because there was something wrong with the way he was breathing. I forfeited because I had realized that she was not coming. I texted her the next day asking if she was all right, and I inquired as to why she didn't show the previous night. She responded with what would turn out to be the last message I received from her. She simply said, "See you again soon." She was delirious, and I was worried about her. I sent her several replies reminding her about the movie and saying it was no big deal, but she just stopped replying. I grew increasingly upset over the next several days. I couldn't reach her at home because I didn't know that number, and I wasn't even sure where they lived. My mood became increasingly depressed, and my mother, who had been really nice as of late, asked if I was okay. I told her that I hadn't heard from Veronica in days, and all the warmth, and I felt all the warmth leave her disposition. "What do you mean?" "She was supposed to meet me at the movies yesterday. I know it's only been 3 weeks since she got hit, but she said she would try to come, and after that, she just stopped talking to me altogether. She must hate me." She looked confused, and I could read on her face what she was trying to tell, that she was trying to tell if my mind had simply broken. When she saw that it hadn't, her eyes began to water, and she pulled me toward her, embracing me. She was beginning to sob, but it seemed too intense a reaction to my problem, and I had no reason to think that she particularly cared for Veronica. She drew in a shuddering breath and then said something that makes me still nauseous even now. She said, "Veronica's dead, sweetheart." "Oh God, I thought you knew. She died on the day you visit her." "Oh baby, she died weeks ago." She had completely broken down, but I knew it wasn't because of Veronica. I broke the embrace and staggered backwards. My mind was swimming. I just exchanged messages with her yesterday. I could only think to ask one question, and it was probably the most trivial I could ask. Then why is her phone still on? She didn't answer. I exploded. Why did it take them so long to shut off her goddamn phone? Her crying broke enough to mutter, "The pictures." I would only come to find out that her parents thought her phone had been lost in the accident, despite the fact that I put it in her purse that night she was brought to the hospital. When they retrieved her belongings, the phone was not among them. They intended to contact the phone company at the end of the billing cycle to deactivate the line, but they received a call informing them of a massive impending charge for hundreds of pictures that had been sent from her phone. Pictures. Pictures that were all sent to my phone. Pictures I never got because my phone couldn't receive them. They learned that they were all sent the night after she died. They deactivated the phone immediately. I tried not to think about the contents of those pictures, but I recall wondering, for some reason, whether I would have been in any of them. My mouth went dry, and I felt the painful sting of despair as I thought of the last message I received from her phone. "See you again soon."
Yeah. I knew that she was dead when the mom reacted that way. But who is this man?
And he was with him at the theater.
Yeah, because he had the labored breathing. See you again soon.
"See you again soon." I'm gonna
Such a creepy Mickey Mouse voice.
such. Well, now I don't have to do the Veronica voice anymore because she's clearly dead. So
I mean, it's better if she's dead, I guess.
why? So I don't have to do her voice anymore? Is that you just don't like it that
Yeah.
much?
Yeah, it was bad.
That's rude. That's rude. I'm hurt.
Well, do better. You can do better. I know you can do better. I've heard better.
Oh, you mean my Australian voice? Hello,
Yeah.
governor. Chip, chip, cheerio. Pip, pip.
Throw that in there.
Wait, should I have done like
I
a
can't win with the
Australian?
lights. Yeah.
I've done an Australian accent for her.
Yeah. Why not?
Okay, so the final part of this story is called Friends. And this, let me just double check, make sure it's the actual final part, because yeah, it
Here's
did.
some
Okay.
of my art I've been doing.
Oh wow,
And
look at you.
lots of flowers.
Lots of flowers. Okay. On the first day of kindergarten, my mom had elected to drive me to school. We were both nervous, and she wanted to be there with me all the way up to the moment I walked into class. It took me a little bit longer to get ready in the morning due to my still mending arm. The cast came up a couple inches past my elbow, which meant I had to cover the entire arm with a specially designed latex bag when I showered. The bag was built to pull tight around the opening in order to seal any water out of it that might otherwise destroy the cast. I had gotten really adept at clinching the bag myself. That morning, however, perhaps due to my excitement or nervousness, I hadn't pulled the strap tight enough, and halfway through the shower, I could feel water pooling inside the bag around my fingers. I jumped out and tore the latex shield away, but I could feel that the previously rigid plaster had become soft after absorbing the water. Because there was no way to effectively clean the area between your body and a cast, the dead skin would normally have fallen away and merely sits there. When stirred by moisture, like sweat, it emits an odor, and apparently this odor is proportionate to the amount of moisture introduced, because soon after I began attempting to dry it, I was struck by the powerful stench of rot. As I continued to frantically rub it with the towel, it began to disintegrate. I was growing increasingly distressed. I had put as much effort as a child could into his very first day of school. I had sat with my mom picking out clothes the night before. I had spent a great deal of time picking out my backpack, and I had become exceedingly excited to show everyone my lunchbox that had the Ninja Turtles on it. I had fallen into my mom's habit of calling these children I hadn't met yet my friends already, but as the condition of my cast worsened, I became deeply upset at the thought that I surely wouldn't be able to apply that label to anyone by the time this day was over. Defeated, I showed my mom. It took 30 minutes to get most of the moisture out while working to preserve the rest of the cast. To address the problem of the smell, my mom cut slivers of a bar of soap and slid them down into the cast, and then rubbed the remainder of the soap on the outside in an attempt to cocoon the rancid smell inside of a more pleasant one. By the time we got to school, my classmates were already engaged in their second activity, and I was shoehorned into one of the groups. I wasn't made very clear on what the guidelines of the activity were, and within about 5 minutes, I had violated the rules so badly that each member of the group complained that to the teacher, and asked why I had to be in their group. I had brought a marker to school, hoping that I could collect some signatures or drawings of my cast next to my mother's, and I suddenly felt very foolish for having even put the marker in my pocket that morning. Kindergartners had the lunchroom to themselves at my elementary school, but some of the tables were off limits, so I'd have to sit alone. I was self-consciously picking up my fraying ends of the cast when a kid sat across from me. "I like your lunchbox," he said. I could tell he was making fun of me, and I was really angry. In my mind, that lunchbox was the last good thing about my day. I didn't look up. I didn't look up from my arm, and I felt a burning in my eyes from the tears that I was holding back. I looked up to tell the kid to leave me alone, but before I could get the words out, I saw something that made me pause. He had the same lunchbox. I laughed. "I like your lunchbox too. I think Michelangelo is the coolest," he said, while miming nunchuck moves. I was in the middle of rebutting by saying that Raphael was my favorite when he knocked his open carton of milk off the table and into his lap. I was gonna say, damn, this kid's getting really
Yeah, I'm like,
bad luck.
oh no.
I tried very hard to stifle my laughter and didn't know him at all. But the struggling look in my face must have struck him as funny because he started laughing first. Suddenly, I didn't feel so bad about my cast and thought that this person would hardly notice now anyway. Just then, I thought to try my luck. Hey, do you want to sign my cast? As I pulled out the marker, he asked me how I broke it. I told him I fell out of the tallest tree in the neighborhood, and he seemed impressed. I watched him laboriously draw his name, and when he was done, I asked him what it said. He told me it said Josh. Josh and I had lunch together every day, and whenever we could, we partnered up for projects. I helped him with his handwriting, and he took the blame when I wrote "fart" on the wall in permanent marker. I would.
What a guy.
What a guy. I would come to know other kids, but I think I knew even then that Josh was my only real friend. Moving a friendship outside of school when you are 5 years old is actually more difficult than most remember. The day we launched our balloons, we had such a good time that I asked Josh if he wanted to come to my house the next day to play. He said he did, and that he'd bring us some of his toys. I said that we could also go exploring and maybe swim in the lake. When I got home, I asked I asked my mom, and she said it would be fine. My enthusiasm was boundless until I realized that I had no way of contacting Josh to tell him. I spent the whole weekend worrying that our friendship would be dissolved by Monday. When I saw him after the weekend, I was relieved to find that he had run into the same obstacle and thought it was funny. Later that week, we both remembered to write our phone numbers down and then exchange them at school. My mom spoke with Josh's dad, and it was decided that my mom would pick up Josh and myself from school that day. We alternated this basic structure nearly every weekend. The fact that we lived so close made things much easier on our parents, who seemed to work constantly. When my mom and I moved across the city at the end of first grade, I was sure that our friendship had seen its last day. As we drove away from the house I had lived in my whole life, I felt a sadness that I knew wasn't just about a house. I was saying goodbye to my friend forever. But Josh and I, to my surprise and delight, stayed close. Despite the fact that we spent the majority of our time apart and only saw one another on weekends, we remained remarkably similar as we grew. Our personalities coalesced, our sense of humor complementing each other's, and we would often find that we started liking new things independently. We even sounded enough alike that when I stayed with Josh, he would sometimes call my mom, pretend to be me. His success rate was impressive. My mom would sometimes joke that the only way she could tell us apart was by our hair. He had straight, dirty blonde hair like his sister, while I had curly, dark brown hair like my mom. One would think that the thing most likely to drive two friends apart would be what's out of their control. However, I think the catalyst of our gradual disengagement was my insistence that we sneak out to my old house to look for boxes. The next weekend, I invited Josh over to my house, in keeping up with the tradition of alternating houses. But he said that he wasn't really feeling up to it. We started seeing progressively less of one another over the next year or so. It had gone from once a week to once a month to once every few months. For my 12th birthday, my mom threw a party for me. I hadn't made that many friends since we moved, so it wasn't a surprise party since my mom had no idea who to invite. I told the handful of kids I'd become acquainted with and called Josh to see if he would come. Originally, he said he didn't think he could make it, but the day before the party, he called to say he'd be there. I was really excited because I hadn't seen him in several months. The party went really well. My biggest concern was that Josh and the other kids wouldn't get along, but they all seemed to like each other well enough. Josh was surprisingly quiet. He hadn't brought me a gift and apologized for that, but I told him it was not a big deal. I was just glad that he was able to make it. I tried to start several conversations with him, but they seemed to keep reaching dead ends. I asked what was wrong. I told him I didn't get why things had become so awkward between us. We were never like that before. We used to hang out almost every weekend and talk on the phone every few days. I asked what happened to us, and he looked up from staring at his shoes and just said, "You left." Just after he said that, my mom yelled in from the other room that it was time to open presents. I forced a smile and walked in the dining room as they sang happy birthday. There were a few rat boxes and lots of cards from most of my extended family out of state. Most of the gifts were silly and forgettable, but I recall that Brian gave me a Mighty Max toy shaped like a snake that I kept for years afterward. My mom was insistent that I open all the cards that had been brought and thank each person who had given one, because several years before on Christmas, I had torn through wrapping paper and envelopes with such a fervor that I had destroyed any possibility of discerning who sent which gift or what amount of money. We separated the ones that had been sent by mail and the ones that had been brought that day, so my friends wouldn't have to sit through me opening cards from people they'd never met. Most of the cards from my friends had a few dollars in them, and the ones from family contained larger bills. One envelope didn't have my name written on it, but it was in the pile as I opened it. The card had a generic floral pattern on its face, and seemed to be a card that had been received by someone else who was now recycling it for my birthday because it was actually a little dingy. I actually appreciate the idea that it was a reused card, since I'd always thought the cards were silly. I angled it so the money wouldn't fall to the floor when I opened it, but the only thing inside was a message that had come printed in the card. "I love you." Whoever had given me this card had not written anything in it, but they had circled the message in pencil a few times. I chuckled and said, "Gee, thanks for the card, Mom." She looked at me quizzically and then turned her attention to the card. She told me it wasn't from her, and she seemed amused as she showed my friends, looking at their faces trying to discern who had played the joke. None of the kids stepped forward, so my mom said, "Don't worry, sweetheart. At least we now know that 2 people love you." She followed that with an extremely prolonged and excruciating kiss on my forehead that transformed the group's bewilderment into hysteria. They were all laughing, so it could have been any one of them, but Mike seemed to be laughing the hardest. To become a participant rather than the subject of the gag, I said to him that just because he had given me the card, he shouldn't think that I'd kiss him later. We all laughed, and as I looked at Josh, I saw he was finally smiling. "Well, I think that gift might be the winner, but you have a few more to open." My mom slid another present in front of me. I was still feeling the tremors of suppressed chuckles in the abdomen as I tore the colorful paper away. When I saw the gift, I had no need to suppress the laughter anymore. My smile dropped as I looked at what I'd been given. It was a pair of walkie-talkies. "Well, go on, show everyone." I held them up, and everyone seemed to approve. But as I drew my attention to Josh, I could see he had quickly turned a sickly shade of white. We locked eyes for a moment, and then he turned and walked into the kitchen. As I watched him dial a number on the corded phone attached to the wall, my mom whispered in my ear that she knew that Josh and I didn't talk as much since one of the walkie-talkies had broken, so she thought I'd like it. I was filled with the intense appreciation for my mom's thoughtfulness, but this feeling was easily overpowered by the emotions resurrected by the returning memories I had tried so hard to bury. When everyone was eating cake, I asked Josh who he had called. He told me he wasn't feeling well, so he called his dad to come get him. I understood that he wanted to leave, but I told him that I wished we could hang out more. I extended one of the walkie-talkies to him, but he put his hand up in refusal. Dejected, I said, "Well, thanks for coming, I guess. I hope I'll see you before the next birthday." "I'm sorry, I'll try to call back more often. I really will." The conversation stagnated as he waited by the door for his dad. I looked at his face. Josh seemed genuinely remorseful that he hadn't made more of an effort. His mood seemed suddenly bolstered by an idea that I had struck him. He told me that he knew what he'd get me for my birthday. It would take a while, but he thought I would really like it. I told him it wasn't a big deal, but he insisted. He seemed in better spirits, and I apologized for being such a drag at the party. He said that he was tired, that he hadn't been sleeping well. I asked him why that was as he opened the door in response to his dad's honking in the driveway. He turned back toward me and waved goodbye as he answered my question. I think I've been sleepwalking. That was the last time I saw my friend, and a few months later, he was gone. Over the past several weeks, the relationship my mother and I, over the last few weeks, the relationship between my mother and I was growing increasingly strained due to my attempts to learn the details of my childhood. It's often the case that one cannot know the breaking point of a thing until that thing fractures. And after the last conversation with my mother, I imagine that she will spend the rest of our lives attempting to repair what had taken a lifetime to build. She had put so much energy into keeping me safe, both physically and psychologically, but I think that the walls meant to insulate me from harm were also protecting her emotional stability. As the truth came pouring out the last time we spoke, I could hear a trembling in her voice that I think was a reverberation of the collapse of her world. I don't imagine my mom and I will talk very much anymore. And while there are still some things I don't understand, I think I know enough. After Josh disappeared, his parents had done all they could do to find him. From the first day, the police had suggested that they contact all of Josh's friends' parents to see if he was with them. They did this, of course, but no one had seen him or had any idea of where he might be. The police have been unable to turn over any new information about Josh's whereabouts, despite the fact that they had received several anonymous phone calls from a woman urging them to compare this case with the stalking case that had been opened about 6 years before. If Josh's mother's grip on the world loosened when her son vanished, it broke when Veronica died. She had seen many people die at the hospital, but there is no amount of desensitization that can fortify a person against the death of her own child. She would visit Veronica twice a day since she was recuperating at a different hospital, once before her shift and once after. On the day Veronica died, her mother was late leaving work, and by the time she arrived at her daughter's hospital, Veronica had already passed. This was too much for her, and over the next few weeks, she became increasingly more unstable. She would often wander outside, yelling for both Josh and Veronica to come home. And there were several times her husband found her wandering around my old neighborhood in the middle of the night, half clothed and frantically searching for her son and daughter. Due to his wife's mental deterioration, Josh's dad could no longer travel for work and began taking construction jobs that were less well-paying so he could be closer to home. When they began expanding my old neighborhood, about 3 months after Veronica died, Josh's dad applied for every position and was hired. He was qualified to lead the build sites, but he took a job as a laborer to keep helping to build frames and clean up the sites and whatever else was needed. He even took odd jobs that would occasionally come up, mowing lawns, repairing fences, anything to keep from traveling. They began clearing the woods in the area next to the tributary to transform the land into inhabitable property. Josh's dad was tasked with the responsibility of leveling the recently deforested lot, and this job guaranteed him at least several weeks of work. On the third day he arrived at the spot he could not level. Each time he'd drive over it, it would remain lower than the surrounding land. Frustrated, he got off the machine to survey the area. He was tempted to simply pack more dirt into the depression, but he knew that that it would only be an aesthetic and temporary solution. He had worked construction for years and knew that root systems from large trees had been recently cut down would often decompose, leaving weaknesses in the soil that would manifest as weaknesses in the foundations above. He weighed his options and elected to dig a little further with a shovel in case the problem was shallow enough to fix without needing a machine that would have to be brought over from another site. And as my mom described this, where this was, I knew I had been at that spot before the soil was broken and before it had been filled in. I felt a tightening in my chest. He dug a hole about 3 feet deep until his shovel collided with something hard. He smashed his shovel against it repeatedly in an attempt to gauge the thickness of the root and the density of the network, when suddenly his shovel plunged in without resistance. Confused, he dug the hole wider. After about half hour excavating, he found himself standing on a brown blanket covered box about 7 feet long and 4 feet wide. Our minds work to avoid dissonance. If we hold a belief strongly enough with our minds will forcefully reject conflicting evidence so that we can maintain the integrity of our understanding of the world. Up until the very next moment, despite what all sense could have indicated, despite the fact that some small but suffocated part of him knew what was supporting his weight, this man, I believe, he knew his son was still alive. My mom got a call around 6 p.m. She knew who it was, but she couldn't understand what he was saying. But what she did comprehend made her leave immediately. Down here, now, son, please God. When she arrived, she found Josh's dad sitting perfectly still with his back to the hole. He was holding the shovel so tightly it seemed that it might snap, and he was staring ahead with eyes that looked as lifeless as a shark's. He wouldn't respond to any of her words, and only reacted when she tried to take the shovel from him. He dragged his eyes slowly to hers and just said, I don't understand. He repeated this as if he had forgotten all other words, and my mother could hear him still muttering it as she walked past him to look in the hole. She told me she wished she had gouged her eyes out before she faced downward into that crater, and I told her I knew that she was about what she was about to say, and that she need not continue. I looked at her face, and it was expressing as a look of such intense despair that it caused my stomach to turn. I realized that she had known of this for almost 10 years and was hoping that she'd never have to tell me. As a result, she never came up with a proper arrangement of words to describe what she saw. And as I sit here, I'm met with the same difficulty of articulation. Josh was dead. His face was sunken in and contorted in such a way that it was as if the misery and hopelessness of all the world had been transferred to it. The assaulting smell of decay rose from the crypt, and my mother had to cover her nose and mouth to keep from vomiting. His skin was cracked, almost crocodilian, and a stream of blood had followed those lines. A stream of blood had followed the lines, had dried on his face after pulling and staining the wood around his head. His eyes lay half-lidded, facing straight up. She said by the look of him he had not been long dead, and thus time had not brought the mercy of degradation to ease the pain and terror that was now etched into his face. She said it was as if he had fixed his gaze right on her, his open mouth offering an all too late plea for help. The rest of his body, however, was invisible. Someone else was covering it. He was large and lay face down on top of Josh, and as my mother's mind stretched itself to take in what she was attempting to tell, my God, I can't read. As my mother's mind stretched itself to take in what her eyes were attempting to tell her, she became aware of the significance in which he laid. He was holding Josh. Their legs lay frozen by death, but entangled like vines in some lush tropical forest. One arm rested under Josh's neck, only to wrap his body so they might lay closer still. As the sun passed through the trees, its light became reflected by something pinned to Josh's shirt. My mother stooped to one knee and raised the collar of her shirt over her nose so that she might block out the smell. When she saw what had caught the sun, her legs abandoned her and she nearly fell into the tomb. It was a picture. It was a picture of me as a child. She staggered backwards, gasping and trembling, and collided with Josh's father, who still sat facing away from the hole. She understood why he had called her, but she could not bring herself to tell him what she had kept from everyone all these years. Josh's family never knew about the night I had woken up in the woods. She knew now that she should have told them, but to tell him would help nothing. As she sat there resting her back against Josh's dad, he spoke. I can't tell my wife. I can't tell her that our little boy. His speech staggered into fits as he pressed his wet face into his dirt-caked hands. She couldn't bear it. After a moment, he stood up, still shuddering, and lumbered toward the grave. With a final sob, he stepped down in the coffin. Josh's dad was a big man, but not as big as the man in the box. He grabbed the back of the man's collar and pulled hard, as if he intended to throw the man out of the grave in a singular motion. But the collar ripped and the body fell back down on top of his son. You motherfucker. He grabbed the man by the shoulders and heaved him back until he was off of Josh and sat awkwardly upright against the wall of the grave. He looked at the man and staggered back a step. Oh God, no, 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 please God, no. In a struggling but powerful movement, he lifted and pushed the corpse out of the grave, and they both heard the sound of gas rolling against wood. It was a bottle. He handed it to my mother. It was either. Oh, Josh, my boy, my baby boy, why is there so much blood? What did he do to you? As my mom looked at the man who now lay face upwards, she realized that she was facing the person who had haunted our lives for over a decade. She had imagined him so many times, always evil and always terrifying, and the cries of Josh's father seemed to confirm her worst fears. But as she stared at his face, she thought that this didn't look like who she imagined. This was just a man. As she looked at his frozen expression, it actually looked serene. The corners of his lips were turned slightly upward. She saw that he was smiling. Not the expected smile of a maniac from a film or a horror film. Not the smile of a demon or the smile of a friend. This was the smile of contentment or satisfaction. It was a smile of bliss. It was a smile of love. As she looked down from his face, she saw a tremendous wound on his neck from where the skin had been ripped out. She was at first relieved when she realized that the blood had not been Josh's. Perhaps he had suffered less. But this comfort was short-lived as she realized how wrong she was. She brought a hand up to her mouth and whispered, almost as if she was afraid to remind the world what happened. They were alive. Josh must have bitten the man's neck in an attempt to get free, and although the man had died, Josh couldn't move him. I began crying when I thought of how long he might have laid there. She looked through the man's pockets for some kind of identification, but she found only a small piece of paper. On it was a drawing of a man holding hands with a small boy, and next to the boy were initials. My initials. I'd like to think that she was remembering that part of the story inaccurately, but I'll never know for sure. As Josh's father carried his son out of the grave, my mom slid the paper into her pocket. He kept muttering that his son's hair had been dyed. She saw that it had. It was now dark brown, and she noticed that he was dressed oddly. His clothes were all far too small. That's all. I guess it's all that his friends' clothes. I mean, his clothes.
Yeah.
That they were in the house. Jesus.
Yeah, he dyed his hair like him. He's probably has him in his clothes.
Uh, After Josh's dad delicately laid his boy on the soft dirt, he began gently pressing his hands against his son's pants to feel his pockets. He heard a crinkle. Carefully, he retrieved a folded piece of paper from Josh's pocket. He looked at it, but was vexed. Absently, he handed it to my mom, but she didn't recognize it either. I asked her what it was. She told me it was a map, and I felt my heart shatter. He was finishing the map. That must have been his idea for my birthday present. I found myself strangely hoping that he hadn't been taken while expanding it, as if that would somehow matter now. She heard Josh's father grunt and looked to see him push the man's body back into the ground. As he walked back toward the machine that had found the spot for him, he put his hand in a canister of gasoline and paused with his back towards my mom. You should go. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault. I did this. You can't think like that. There was not. He interjected flatly, almost with no emotion at all. About a month ago, a guy approached me as I was cleaning up the site on the new development a block over. He asked me if I wanted to make some extra money, and because my wife's not working right now, I accepted. He told me that some of the kids had dug a bunch of holes in his property, and he offered me $100 to fill them in. He said that he wanted to take some pictures for the insurance company first, but if I came back after 5 p.m. the next day, that would be fine. I thought this guy was a sucker since I knew clearing was that lot was coming up. But I needed the money, so I agreed. I didn't think he even had $100, but he put the bill in my hand. I did the job the next day. I've been so exhausted that I didn't think about it till today when I pulled that same guy off my son. He pointed at the grave, and his emotions started to push through as he broke into a sob. He paid me $100 so I would bury him with my boy. It was as if saying it aloud forced him to accept what had happened, and he collapsed onto the ground in tears. My mom could think of nothing to say and stood there in silence for what felt like a lifetime. She finally asked what he would do about Josh. His final resting place won't be here with this monster. As she looked back when she reached her car, she could see black smoke billowing and diffusing against the amber sky, and she hoped against all hope that Josh's parents would be okay. I left my mom's house without saying much else. I told her that I loved her and that I would talk to her soon, but I didn't know what soon means for us. I got into my car and left. I understood now why the events of my childhood had stopped years ago. As an adult, I now saw that the connections that were lost in a child who tends to see the world in snapshots rather than a sequence. I thought about Josh. I loved him then, and I love him even still. I miss him now more than I'll ever see him again. I miss him now that oh my God, I miss him more now that I know I'll never see him again, and I find myself wishing that I had hugged him the last time I saw him. I thought about Josh's parents, how much they had lost, and how quickly that loss had come. They didn't know my connection to any of this, but I could never look at them in the eyes now. I thought about Veronica. I had only really come to know her later in life, but for those brief few weeks, I think I really loved her. I thought about my mom. She had tried so hard to protect me and was stronger than I could ever be. I tried not to think about the man and what he had done to Josh for more than 2 years. Mostly I thought about Josh. Sometimes I wish he had never sat across from me that day in kindergarten, that I had never known what it was like to have a real friend. Sometimes I like to dream that he's in a better place, but that's only a dream, and I know that. The world is a cruel place, made crueler still by the man. There would be no justice for my friend, no final confrontation, no vengeance. It had been over for almost a decade, for everyone but me now. I miss you, Josh. I'm sorry you chose me, but I'll always cherish my memories with you. We were explorers, we were adventurers, we were friends. And that's it. That's the story. That is Pen Pal.
My God.
That's so fucked up. That's so fucked up.
Yeah, for real.
So fucked up. He had his dad bury him and his son. That's like next level psychotic.
Yeah. Oh no, the whole thing. Like, this guy doesn't really have friends. He has this one friend. That guy dies. He's in love with his sister. She dies. His poor family. Everything. Everything is awful.
Kind
Everything.
of like the world we live in.
Yeah. Kind of exactly like the world we live in. I don't know, there's glimmers of maybe. We'll see what happens. I just don't have a lot of hope. But things
Wow.
change all the time. I just never know what's going on. Keep me updated.
Let this be a lesson to anyone who is considering letting their kid launch a balloon out. Well, I guess technically they have been stalked before the balloons. That really wasn't the point, but it was the first time he was kidnapped. Or was it? Wait, hold on. Am I thinking?
Let this be a lesson that people are scary. There are really weird people out there.
And that Donald Trump's uncle did not teach the Unabomber. That's a made-up fact.
Why is this a thing? Why?
Well, thanks everyone for joining us on this journey. It's been a long one, 3-part series. We appreciate you hanging around.
Bye.